Good afternoon, lovely viewers. I welcome you once again to this video with Teacher Dixon on technical drawing. So today we want to briefly take a look at the types of lines in technical drawing. Remember, we're still in the elementary aspects of our dealings. That's in the area of technical drawing. Remember, this is very much relevant to those in the technical field, the engineering, architecture, and probably those in the technical colleges who are studying any of the engineering courses. So please, I'd like you to draw near. Let's see everything about types of lines. All right, so I would like to start with the definition of lines. Meaning of line. What do we call lines in technical drawing? I say here that a line is a continuous mark made on a surface using pencil, pen, or drawing instrument. So this is what we call a line. It is a mark that is made on a surface using pencil and other drawing instruments, right? So somebody can equally put it this way, that a line is a traced distance between 2 points. So if I may want to put it that way, so this is it. We have a point here and we have another point here. If I trace the distance between these 2 points, it gives me a line. It doesn't need to be straight, so it can be like this. That's still a line. So we are emphatically saying that it is a straight, it is a traced path between 2 points. Okay, so that's what a line is all about. Okay, now in technical drawing, lines are used to represent edges and boundaries. They're used to represent edges and boundaries. If I want to illustrate that also, for instance, if we are talking about maybe border lines in a drawing, so you will agree with me that this can be a drawing paper. So if I do this as my border line, okay, so this shows boundary. It defines an enclosure where I will have my drawing so that it will look neat. So a line can show edges and boundaries. That's the illustration there. All right, so another thing that we use lines for is to show hidden details. Of course, when we go to the types of line, we will describe more on that. All right, and it also shows movement or direction. Exactly what I've said. We will talk about much of that when we are considering types of lines, and represent cutting, planes, and centers. All right, why I always forward these to this direction is because I want to use them when I'm talking about the individual types of lines. For example, when we are talking about maybe continuous line, we will see what where they are relevant. All right, so let's quickly take a look at the types of lines we have. These are not all, but these are more relevant when we consider technical drawing. There are other types of lines that can be used in technical drawing, but also very much functional when we are going into other areas of artworks. So I would not want to maybe go into lengthy details like having to cover all the types of lines. For example, we will have lines like parallel lines, we have lines like perpendicular lines, we have lines like curved lines, we have spiral lines, and so on. But we want to be specific in this area, talking about these 6, I believe. Okay, so let's quickly consider them. We have what we call thick continuous line, a thick continuous line. Equally, we have thin continuous line. In contrast, we also have thick and thin short dashes line. We have thick long chain lines, equally thin long chain lines. We have wavy lines, and also we have long break lines, which we can also call ruled zigzag lines. All right, let's take them one by one and see where they are applicable and what they're used for. All right, the first one we consider was thick continuous line. Now, what is a thick continuous line? As the name implies, you have to draw it bold, right? Thick and continuous, that's the name. Now, where can we use this? We use this when we are showing visible outlines, visible outline. For example, if I'm drawing my diagram, it is worthy of note that I should begin the drawing with thin line, and after which I might have finished and know that everything is accurate, then I will trace the lines. When I do this, I am making it visible. So this line is what we use when we are making our visibles. That's how we call it visible outline. So we use thick continuous lines to do that. All right, the second one is thin continuous line. Like I said, is contrasting the first one. Now, what do we use a thin continuous line for? As the name implies, it is a line that is drawn tiny. It is not as bold as the other one. Right. Now, what do we use this for? A thin continuous line is used for these four things I'm going to mention. Number one, dimensioning. Number one, we use it for dimensioning. We also use it for constructing, or you can call it construction. We equally use it for projection. Projection. And as well, we use it for hatching. Okay, so as we progress in the area of this teaching, we are going to talk much on this, but for now, let me just say this. Dimensioning. For example, if I have a box that is drawn like this, and I want to dimension, so I will have to do something like this and do this. I want to show the length of this, so I'll do this. Now, this line that I've just drawn with arrow head is a dimension line. So I can decide to say that between here and here is 5 cm. So that shows a dimension. Now, this line is going to be drawn using a thin continuous line. All right, so talking about construction, the process of drawing this, I am constructing. I have not yet finished my work. So in the process of drawing, that is the construction process. So I'll make use of thin line. I will not use thick line yet until when I'm at a finish. Equally, we can use it for projection. Now, what I did here, see this? This line that gives direction is a projection line before I have the dimension. So once I do this to show the edges, the boundaries, now I am projecting. So that defines this. And also the last one we use a thin continuous line for is called the hatching. Now when I draw, for example, let's say I am drawing a cone. So this is a typical conical shape. Now I decide to cut the cone like this. So that means this particular face will be removed. So in essence, what I will have will look much like this. Okay? Now, for me to show that this is the indicated cutting plane, I will have to do lines at angle 45. Okay, now these lines I am drawing inside the cutting plane is what we call hatching line. All right, so we use thin continuous line to represent that. All right, so let's get to the next one. The next kind of line we have to deal with is called the thick short dash line. Thick short dash line. All right, now thick short dash line, as the name implies, is drawn just the way you've seen it. It's made bolder and with short dashes. All right, so where can this be applied? It is used, okay, let me use the two at once. It is used to show hidden detail, or they are used, the thick and the thin, they are used to show hidden details. Here I would like you maybe to ask me a question. I don't want to explain much on this, but I know that there is a question you have in mind to ask. So now, let's see what I'm going to produce here. All right, now you agree with me that this solid block that I'm drawing here, these areas I'm going to cut are supposed to be hidden because they are not shown on the surface. All right, so now look at that. the areas I've just indicated with dashes, short dashes, are hidden. So when you are using these two lines, the thick short dashes and the thin short dashes, you are using them to represent hidden details. Can be outline, hidden details, or hidden edges. Right, so that is what they are used for. Now quickly, let's consider the next type of line that we have here, which is thick chain line. Thick chain line. Alright, as the name implies, it looks like chain and it's thick. Okay, so what do we use that for? That line is used for a sectional view. Sectional, when you're cutting a section. For example, you have maybe a building plan and looks like this. This is just an illustration. It is not really what we can do. We can do better than this. So let's assume that this is a building plan. If I want to represent a sectional plane on this, so I will do something like this. Alright, so this is the cutting plane which is represented using the thick chain line. So that is what we use that line for, after which we'll draw the sectional view. Alright, now talking about the thin chain line, that one is used for center line. For example, if we have maybe a tube, a cylindrical tube like this, and we want to show the center lines, we can use a thin short dash. Remember, my marker will not really want this to be thin as I would expect, but just know that I am drawing this particular line. Alright, it is used to represent center lines in solid shape, that is cylindrical. Alright, center lines. Alright, thank you very much. Now let's take a look at the next kind of line. We have what we call continuous wavy line. Continuous wavy line, and that line is drawn like this. As you can see, it looks like wavelength. Alright, okay, so what do we use this kind of line for? It shows boundaries, irregular boundaries. Okay, for example, I am drawing a block like this, and I am cutting the block, and I am not showing a straight face. I am cutting and directionally, so according to maybe specified rule. So I will use this to show that there is a continuation, just that we have a boundary. So if I remove this, you will see how that looks like. Okay, so that shows a boundary line. Now the last kind of line that we will consider today is called rule zigzag line or continuous zigzag line. What do we use it for? We use it for long break. Long break. For example, those in building field, they will really understand what I'm going to draw now. So I'm going to make this illustration too. Okay, so what I've drawn there is a wall unit showing the foundation and the wall. Now, you have seen this type of line on top of the wall there. That shows that this wall is supposed to be continued, but it is cut at this point. So it shows that